a trip out to the ocean. Gonna leave behind the great big sea. Got lots of friends who miss me all across the country. They can see me on MattTv, on MattTv, on MattTV, on MattTV. MattTV is recorded in front of a live audience.
It is, Joe. It certainly is. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for making your Wednesday afternoon a part of my Wednesday afternoon right here on the south coast of British Columbia. I was in here 6 hours ago doing a phone interview with Michelle Nowlin. I am back with another interview, and we're going to get to my guest here in just a few moments. We will be doing a split screen interview in just a few moments, so I encourage you to stay exactly where you are. I see my guest Robin is in the audience right now. Robin, I will get to you in just a few moments. Just let me close some windows, do some housekeeping, and we're off to the races. How is everyone doing? The weather out here is changing. I think the rain has finally stopped. The weather is changing for the better out here on the West Coast. You can't quite say the same thing for friends and family of mine back on the East Coast. I've been watching videos and pictures all day long. Snowmageddon, as Keith Robinson, he did a Facebook Live video here a few hours ago. He said he was up to his knees just walking down his driveway, where yesterday he was walking down his driveway with snow not up to his knees. So Mother Nature has been quite relentless. My mother said that they've had more snow in the month of March than they have had the entire winter season, which is just incredible, Yes, Robin, we'll get to you in just a couple of moments. What are we going to be talking about here this afternoon on MattTV? I've been talking about this for a few days. We're going to be talking about ketones. But before we get into that, just let me set this up for you. We're going to be talking about the company Pruvit, Pruvit. Now, Pruvit was founded with a very simple philosophy in mind: make people better. What a great philosophy. Make people better. Pruvit is the world's first consumer-based ketone supplement drink, Keto OS. And they are the worldwide leader in ketone technology. How many people have benefited from this? Millions. But what exactly are ketones? Well, let me tell you what ketones are. I did put this information up on my MattTV page so you can follow along at home. Ketones, also known as ketone bodies, are byproducts of the body breaking down fat for energy that occurs when carbohydrate intake is low. Another word we will be discussing today is ketosis. Well, what exactly is ketosis? Ketosis is a metabolic state characterized by raised levels of ketone bodies in the body tissues, which is typically pathological in conditions such as diabetes or the consequence of a very low or of a diet very low in carbohydrates. So keep that information right here tucked in the front of your mind as we're going to welcome Robin Younge to the program. So this show is being broadcast off my iPhone. So in order to invite Robin to the show, I'm just going to do a little swipe here. Going to do a little swipe. Sorry about that. We don't want to do that. We'll swipe this way. There's Robin there. I'm going to bring Robin on the camera. The independent Pruvit promoter, Robin Younge from North Vancouver, he has been an independent Pruvit promoter for the last 15 months since 2016. So we're just going to wait for the program, and then I have a whole slew of questions for him. Robin, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad that you are able to join the broadcast. And I just want to let people know that this is only the second time that you and I have ever communicated. We spoke on the phone yesterday morning for the first time, and here we are on a split screen on MattTV. So welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks so much.
I just want to get right. I've already told people the definitions of ketosis and ketones, a little bit about Pruvit, and I've put links up to all that information on my MattTV page so people can follow along. But let's get right into your personal story. What was happening in your life that made you decide that I need to better myself, and how did you get involved with Prove It?
Wow. Okay. Let's not make this one too long.
We got all the time in the world, Robin.
Awesome. Well, basically, it came down to this. From as early as I can remember, there was something wrong with my mood. I suffered from what, after like many times being with therapists and doctors, I suffered from a debilitating form of depression that hospitalized me multiple times in my 20s. And even as a teenager, I was on medications to help alleviate the depression. And then my symptoms were so severe that ended up taking medication that was basically to help with the side effects, but the side effects were worse than the depression. So all we were constantly doing was giving me medications to battle side effects. And I lived all through my teenage years and my 20s, all like in that state where I was exhausted all the time, incredibly moody. I had almost no will to live. And it got to the point so bad that one time I actually took myself to the hospital and I said, look, there's got to be something else here because I'm doing everything everybody is telling me to do, and nothing is alleviating anything for me in my life. So nothing changed. They just changed my medication. Every 6 months, it seemed like I was on a new one, told me to be on medication for the rest of my life. And even throughout my 20s, I had a background in nutrition. I ran an organic food company for 10 years. I was constantly learning all about how to better myself with food, being food as fuel. Nothing changed anything, and nobody ever told me about ketones. People that I went to help better my life so I could have this incredible life that I was gifted to have, and I was just being pumped full of drugs the whole time. Nobody talked to me about nutrition. I took that on my own, never learned about ketones. And then when I was about 35, I just said enough's enough. I hit a wall and I was absolutely done. And I opened up my computer one day and just decided that I was going to take matters into my own hands. And I researched ways to heal my brain naturally from depression and came across an author named Tim Ferriss. And he started talking about ketones and how ketones bypass the glucose fuel system, and you go back to your native state, the way that you were actually developed in the womb, the way that you were designed to be running your life in, not with this inferior fuel source we're pumped with when we go buy food. And this was really interesting to me and also confusing because I'd never heard about this. And the deeper I went in, I started to learn about what ketones do for the brain. I started learning about neurotransmitters and how there are areas of your brain that actually don't have the opportunity to fire properly due to glucose. They're not designed. Your brain is designed to be running off of ketones. So I went, okay. After reading tons and tons of testimonials, I decided to look into how to get myself into this state. And I started reading about a ketogenic diet. And then it hit me. In order to get the medical benefits of a ketogenic diet, you have to eat a 90% fat intake. I've been working this full time now for almost 3 years, and I still don't know how to consume 90% fat intake with all my research day in and day out. 5% carbohydrates, which can only be restricted to, 12 different types of vegetables, 0 fruits, and then about 5% of that diet can be protein. And at the time, I couldn't tie my shoes without feeling exhausted. My life was suffering dramatically. I was about to lose the woman that I love, kids, everything. Nothing in my life was thriving. But then I did learn that there's an alternative way to actually get into this state, to bypass the need to follow the diet, and that is prolonged fasting. When we stop consuming glucose as our primary fuel, our body defaults back to its native state. It starts burning fat and creating ketones. But there's also a problem with fasting, and that is it's not sustainable. You can't continually fast and fast. You need to replenish your storage. You need to have a fuel source. So after I battled both of these and I played around with them, I actually started to notice great differences. My mood started changing, my outlook on life started shifting my perception on everything, started to drastically shift to a point where I said, there's something here. There's something. And I ended up pulling myself off of my medications, from side effects medications, from depression medications, and I just went for it. And I went headfirst into understanding the power of ketones purely from a selfish standpoint at that point. I wanted to have an incredible life. I wanted to feel good. And then Prove It came into my life back in 2016, December 2016, and I went exogenous ketones. I knew about endogenous, meaning the ketones our body produces when in the diet or fasting, but exogenous meaning outside of the body. And so I started doing my research about exogenous ketones, and I went, well, hold on a second here. If I follow a ketogenic diet, I have to follow this for like weeks to months to get into an elevated level of ketones in my blood, which means ketosis. I could do that, or I could fast for extended periods of time and then eat again and be out, or I could drink exogenous ketones and be in this state in roughly 30 minutes without shifting my diet. And this just blew my mind. I all of a sudden had a new area that I needed to research, and I dove in. And when I first started drinking those ketones, the shift for me was so miraculous that I said, this has got to be a placebo. There's no way. But the funny thing is that even though I thought this has to be a placebo, this placebo was better than anything else I'd ever had in my life. So I kept drinking them, and I kept educating myself, because I'm very skeptical about this, with years of understanding depression, that all of a sudden I could drink something and personally my life was shifting more than anything else I'd ever experienced. I was very skeptical. So I started researching and drinking. And within a very, very short period of time, I felt like I actually had a life. And I always say to people, ketones didn't give me my life back. Ketones actually gave me a life for the first time that I had ever known. And it's only been, 15 months that I've been consuming them on a regular basis, but I don't even recognize that person that I was compared to the person that I am today. I can't relate to that person anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick question. Are you still on any medications?
No, nothing. Haven't been for a long time now.
Wow.
Nothing whatsoever.
So you have done lots of research. So just allow me to be the skeptic, if you don't mind.
Please. Yeah.
So let me take it from a point of view of someone who doesn't know what ketosis is, doesn't know what ketones are. So just let me ask you a few questions, and we'll just use this as an educational learning tool, a program for members of the audience. Is that okay?
You bet.
Okay. So generally, what are the benefits of taking ketones, exogenous ketones?
Well, there's if we just skim the surface here, what happens is when people first start consuming the ketones, they start noticing much better sleep. They start noticing things like their sugar and carbohydrate cravings that most of us suffer from all the time drastically get depleted. There's mood shifts. People start noticing that they're happier when there were situations that they were more stressed out about day to day. They start noticing that they're not as stressed anymore. They start noticing focus. Focus is massive. That foggy brain that a lot of us get in the afternoon. When you drink the ketones, you start noticing that you have this ability to be in the zone. You can accomplish more. All of a sudden, it's like you're 2-3 steps ahead than where you were thinking. Like you can think multiple steps ahead in accomplishment. And those are just the few things that people on a large scale notice. Now, because all of our bodies, we all are suffering from something, even if it's just a lack of sleep or foggy brained, we all will find different outcomes by drinking the ketones in the beginning. All of our bodies are on a very different timeline.
For sure. See that right there? That's a selling point for me. We could just stop it right there. It's like, okay, sign me up. Because when you talk about just how it affects the brain and you're just that much more focused, that's just tremendous in itself.
Absolutely. It's really exciting.
Can you explain the difference between nutritional ketosis and exogenous ketones?
For sure. So in order to get your body into a state of ketosis, and now ketosis just means an elevated level of ketones in the blood. We always have both fuel sources. Our bodies are like hybrid engines. It just depends which one are you primarily running on. When we're consuming carbohydrates and sugars, we have glucose being our primary fuel source. In order to get your body into ketosis nutritionally, you would have to restrict all carbohydrates and sugars, increase your fat intake to up to 90%, and limit your carbohydrates and protein and carbs, mean not bread or pasta or rice, but we're talking a very limited amount of vegetables and a very select of vegetables, no peas, carrots, or potatoes. When you can consume that for extended period of time, and again, everybody's body's on a different timeline, you'll get your body creating ketones. And what that is the breakdown of fat being converted into a fuel source called ketones. So the end result of a ketogenic diet is fat metabolism, which creates ketones, which dumps into your blood, and you can use that as a fuel source. That is a ketogenic diet in a very, very Cliff Notes type way.
You might as well eat a stick of butter.
Go for it. I know people that do. The other way, so exogenous ketones takes the whole one thing I just got to add quickly here is not everybody can get into ketosis. There's multiple reasons why even people who follow a ketogenic diet can't get into ketosis. So what this exogenous ketones do is they allow every single person on the planet to get ketones into their brain to fuel properly. And all you have to do, and here's the big difference, is you open a pack of exogenous ketones, you put it into a shaker bottle, there you go. Raspberry lemonade, the fan favorite, is you add the ketones to water, you shake it up, drink it over 20 minutes, and within 30 minutes of consuming, you will be in ketosis. And it had nothing to do with what you ate. That's the beauty about this. But that always poses a question when people say, well, I don't understand. How can you drink ketones, get into this state when I've followed a ketogenic diet for an incredible amount of time? And I like to say it's like this. Imagine that you had to follow an incredibly strict diet in order to get caffeinated. But then somebody came out with coffee, and then you could drink coffee and you'd be caffeinated. It bypasses the whole need for your body to create it and puts it directly into your blood.
Excellent. That's a good way that's an excellent way of allowing people to grasp the concept.
Yeah.
Medical conditions. What if someone has pre-existing medical conditions? How does that affect taking ketones? Or does it? Or are we going to, obviously we're going to benefit from it, yes?
Well, this poses a really interesting topic here in that not all ketones are created equal. When we go into ketosis through a ketogenic diet or fasting, our body creates a very specific ketone called DBHB. And we're the only company in the world that actually has the patent to consume DBHB. So when you consume the exogenous ketones, your body recognizes this as a fuel source it already creates. It's not a foreign body whatsoever. So if you have a medical condition or you're taking any antibiotics or any form, this doesn't actually get in the way, but we highly recommend that if anybody is seeking help from a medical practitioner, that they also take this and talk to their medical practitioner as well before consuming the ketones.
Okay, good stuff. What's the difference between ketosis versus diabetic ketoacidosis?
That's a really good question. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So ketoacidosis, even though it sounds like ketosis, has nothing to do with ketosis. Ketoacidosis is an issue that usually comes down with people with type 1 diabetes. And it's where the pancreas doesn't actually create any insulin. And now we're getting into super nerdy territory, which I love. But what happens is that when you're consuming carbs and sugars, they're not being converted to glucose and put into, and that glucose is recognized as a fuel source in the blood, but sugar is not. So when you have sugar in your blood, your body doesn't think that it actually has any fuel source in there, so it starts creating ketones. So your body thinks that it's starving. So ketoacidosis is when you have an elevated level of ketones and sugar at the same time, can be detrimental to the body. Big time. It has nothing to do with ketosis. Ketosis is a healthy state of an elevated level of ketones that you would get into your blood from a ketogenic diet or fasting, or now exogenous ketones.
Okay. Is it possible for an individual to have too many ketones? Did you maybe you just explain what you said there?
Yeah. So ketoacidosis again is very, very different. So if we come away from that topic and we just talk about ketones, ketones, whether or not your body is consuming them, creating them through a ketogenic diet, or you're consuming exogenous ketones, they're water soluble. So what your body doesn't use, you'll actually just urinate out, and your body will regulate the amount of ketones that it needs. So when consuming our product, Keto OS, you actually can't consume too much ketones. Okay. What your body doesn't use, you'll just pee out.
Okay. And is it the only way to take exogenous ketones? Is this right here? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
What makes our product, again, really special is the patent we have on pure therapeutic ketones. So there is another form of ketones that you can consume out in the world. Pruvit was the very first company to bring exogenous ketones to the public. The study of exogenous ketones is around 100 years old. It's not a new technology. It's brand new technology to the public. They have been researched and journaled for a very, very long time. When you're consuming pure therapeutic ketones, there's another way you can consume them called a racemic formulation, and that is where you're not consuming pure therapeutic ketones. So that's what everyone else has to create because we have the patents. So when you're if you think of it like this in relation to your body, pure therapeutic ketones is like a game of Tetris. All of those pieces, when put into the correct sequence, fit and work in your body. Now, a racemic formulation is where you'll have, let's say you take all those pieces in a game of Tetris and you start shaving off corners, you start changing the angles on the pieces, you're going to have a lot of empty space. So the sequence isn't going to work efficiently, which is why our ketones have anywhere from a 95 to 100% effectiveness in the body, while a racemic formulation can have anywhere from 25 to 35% effectiveness in the body.
Okay. Does an individual who maybe doesn't have the best diet and they want to start taking ketones, do they have to change their diet?
Not at all.
Some people be like, no, I don't want to change my diet. But so how do you answer that?
Yeah, we just tell them to drink them. just drink it. Yeah, like that's the beauty about this, and what it is truly so revolutionary is this is the first time in history the public has the ability to get back into the native state without shifting their diet. So for example, we have somebody that we've been working with who sat on the couch and was severely depressed and could not get up. And this is a personal experience, of course. There's no medical claims in anything of what I've been saying here at all. But he was, sitting on the couch and was severely depressed. The sink was full of dishes. The house was just a mess. And he started drinking ketones. And I remember getting a message, a few days later that he had no idea that his banisters were so dirty. He had so much energy, and all of a sudden a massive shift had happened because, I hear conversations from purists who are saying that the only way to get into ketosis is through a ketogenic diet and that you can't just drink ketones to get there. But the fact is that for so long, that was the education. We now have a new education, and that is exogenous ketones. And it's so new that people can be confused, especially for people who have been getting into ketosis strictly through the ketogenic diet for years. I have another friend who's been ketogenic for 25 years, strict. Like that guy puts coconut oil in his coffee and eats macadamia nuts and high fat all the time for 25 years. And he said, what would be the benefit of me drinking these ketones? And I said, you know what? Just drink them. Let's see what happens. And he was able to elevate his ketone bodies in his blood higher than the diet would actually allow him to do so. And even he, a veteran of the ketogenic diet, is drinking the ketones because of what it's doing for him.
Excellent. Good
Yeah.
stuff. At the very beginning of this broadcast, you talked about that you were on some medication when you started taking the ketones.
Yeah.
Should people be concerned about that? Are there any side effects? Because I know a lot of people, when they're watching TV, different medicines come on and they're being promoted, but there's always the last 30 seconds of the commercial is just all the bad side effects. So what are the side effects, if any, of taking ketones?
There aren't any side effects of drinking exogenous ketones. And I can only speak to our ketones of Keto OS and the Max formulation. Our product, there's a big difference between a supplement and our Keto OS. A supplement is not regulated. You can have anything you want in those. If you ever go look at the side of like protein powder or anything at your local grocery store and you can't even read the ingredients in there, though, especially if you go to a place where like a health food store or somewhere where you actually get a supplement, the list is forever. And sometimes I've seen those lists so long that you actually can tear off the plastic to continue reading behind the ingredients.
Yeah.
It's forever. But what makes our product really, really special is that our Max formulation is registered in Canada as food. So in health, Canada has some of the highest food regulations in the world. And to be recognized in Canada as a food is a really, really big feat. So when you're consuming ketones, our ketones, because they're pure therapeutic, you're actually consuming what's known as the fourth macronutrient to the body, and it's known as a food.
Okay.
So it doesn't get in the way of any. Again, with medication, you'd want to be communicating with your healthcare practitioner on that for sure.
Okay. That's really that's all the questions that I have for you. Because
Awesome.
I just wanted to introduce ketones to my audience back east. I got a lot of family and friends back there, but personally for me, this came in the mail today. This was like Christmas. This came in the mail today, and tomorrow when Sue comes to White Rock, she's bringing 2 more of these, I believe. Yes.
She is, yeah.
Yes. So it's just like Christmas. Jen and I each had one this morning. I just dumped the whole pack in, and
Awesome.
we went for a walk at the beach, and it works. Like you feel like you're walking on air. You just feel like you have this energy. You are much happier. Your attitude is better. So personally, I can say that it does work. And I've only had maybe 4 or 5 packs. But starting tomorrow, I'll be drinking it every day. And I guarantee you we'll never run out of it in this household.
We never run out in our house as well.
Yeah. As a promoter, as an independent promoter of Prove It, just what are your final thoughts? What do you want to say to the audience right now about this product? And, trying to encourage people to make people better. What are some points that you would like to leave with my audience about this product?
Well, one of my consistent favorite reasons for drinking ketones is something called insulin resistancy. And it's a conversation that I really like to have with people just to educate them a little bit more on the power of why we should be consuming ketones. And if you're okay with it, it's a couple minutes that I just need.
Go ahead. No, it's all yours, Robin.
Awesome. Because when we're developed in the womb, at about 3 months of development, our body goes into ketosis, and we actually stay in this state of ketosis until we're done breastfeeding. And so we were prepared to be living our life with ketones as a primary fuel source and glucose in a very, very small amount when it was available or when needed. But the problem is that with how we're constantly consuming with food that is so readily available, we have carbohydrates and sugars consistently all the time. And when we have when carbs and sugars are converted to glucose in our blood, our pancreas actually creates something called insulin. And one of insulin's primary jobs is to open the doors to your cells and your tissues so that the glucose can leave the blood and be absorbed into the body as a fuel source. And so for so many of us, when we're really young and we grow up and we're in a teenager, we have a ton of energy. We're just accomplishing, we're just no problem, and we're not storing fat on our body as well. But as we age, what happens is that because our body was never designed to be constantly bombarded with glucose, insulin's other job is a fat storing hormone. So when we're constantly using glucose as a fuel source and insulin is opening the doors, it starts to get tired out. And so that conversation between insulin and our cells and tissues starts to deafen. So glucose doesn't end up leaving our blood. So because glucose is actually toxic to be residing in our blood all the time, insulin has to get it out of our blood. And so it starts storing it in places like the liver and around our midsection. And then we end up gaining weight, which is why as we age, we tend to gain weight a lot easier, and we can't just go to the gym or exercise and it easily falls off like it used to. Mm-hmm. But that's the precursor to what's really, really important is as much as our bodies can actually be resistant to using glucose primarily, so is our brain. And it's our brain. If we don't take care of our brain and we're not constantly fueling our brain properly, everything else is going to be affected. And that's what's so important for me personally, and what I learned about ketones for the brain, which changed my life, is that we need to get the proper fuel source to our brain. And as we become insulin resistant, which is, the studies were showing like 1 out of 2 people in North America is resistant to insulin, meaning we're not using the fuel source. So our brain is suffering, but our ketone receptors in our brain are always there waiting. They're waiting for that fuel, which is why when people drink the ketones in the first couple of days, start noticing an awakening of focus. They're like, wow, I love it when I hear from people saying like colors seem more vivid. I can hear things that I didn't even notice before because your brain is lighting up like a Christmas tree and it's having the opportunity to be fueled again properly. And that's one thing that I always love explaining to people as best I can in a way that everybody can get.
That's exciting.
It's really exciting. Yeah.
And I wish I would have paid more attention in biology.
I didn't pay any attention.
Robin, I want to thank you. So what are your plans? Just one final thing. Where do you see yourself? What are your plans for 2018 moving forward?
I'm really deeply passionate about exactly what we're doing right now, spreading the word about ketones. And my girlfriend and I, Sarah, we're both very, very passionate about talking about exogenous ketones and just doing whatever we can to get people just to drink them, to just notice a better themselves. They have, we're given this opportunity to live our life and to live it in abundance. And we need to get our mind in check first. And if we can get that thing firing properly, lives change. And for the last 15 months of being a promoter in this company, I have seen multiple lives change to a point where it's like, wow, like it's not a shock to me anymore when you get text messages. And I know you've had an amazing experience as well. Constantly experiences. Since the company opened, there's been over 100 million experiences with Keto OS.
Wow.
And I just want to be pushing forward and getting this product into as many people's hands as possible.
Excellent. Wise words from a wise man. Robin, thanks for your time. And listen, I know we've never met. You're in North Vancouver, yes?
I am, yeah.
Let's, North Vancouver from here is like an hour. I would definitely sometime in the very near future like to get together and just sit down and chat. Because I just love your energy. I just love your energy.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, thanks for your time, Robin.
My pleasure. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. close the window. Robin Younge, North Vancouver, an independent promoter of Prove It, remarkable individual. I just wanted to, like I said, Jen and I are on this right now. I'll show you the package right here. I know it's backwards, but this is the Keto OS Max Pure Therapeutic Ketones. This is a raspberry lemonade. It's a crystal. You put it in your water. It doesn't matter if it's 2 liters of water or 8 ounces of water. It doesn't matter. This is excellent stuff. I encourage you, if you want to be sharper, if you just want to be a better person, get in contact with me, get in contact with Jen, or get in contact with Robin Younge, and we'll help you out. This stuff right here, it comes in a box. There's 20 servings, so right now this would last 3 weeks, 1 a day, or you may get to a point where you want to do 2 a day. It's good stuff. It is excellent stuff, and I recommend it for everybody. There's not a single person, like Robin said, there's not a single person on this planet that won't benefit from this, okay? So that's going to do it for me. I'm really excited to introduce this to you. Jen and I are doing this, and it works. I'm not the type of person that is, I'm not going to BS anybody. It works. If you're interested in getting a package and getting on board, I'm just like Robin. I'm just like Robin. I have been put here on this planet to help other people. And if I can help you to be a better person, you know I will. You know I will do my best. So if you're interested, send me a private message, and I can lead you to the website, and you can make your own decision from there. I have put links up on my MattTv page, and you can do your own research, and you can make your own judgment. You can make your own decision. We're all grown adults. Yes? Thanks for hanging out, and a big thank you to Robin Younge in North Vancouver. And yeah, that's going to do it for me as we approach 4:37 here on the west coast of British Columbia. Getting back to the weather on the east coast, be safe wherever you are going. Get to where you are going safely from point A to point B. Snowmageddon. It's got to be wrapping up soon. It's got to be wrapping up real soon. I hope you enjoyed the program. I hope it was fun. I hope it was educational. I hope you learned something, and I hope you certainly took something away from this broadcast. My name is Matthew. This is MattTV, now and always from sea to sea.